Go, starting now. We can bring Lucy on in. All right, so we were talking earlier about the idea I had as far as I was kind of scared at first for Lovestock, which I'm calling it. I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to afford anything as far as the stage setup and all those type things. And I thought about it, and years ago, people used to help each other out. They used to do things for each other, and they would provide the needs. One person would be a blacksmith, another person would be a cook, one person would be I guess one person would be a farmer, things like that, and they would all take care of each other for their different needs. And so my idea for this is that money does not need to be involved. It needs to be people volunteering things, putting up the stage. They can put their logo on it if they want, but they're volunteering it. I'm not going to allow them to charge for anything, because this whole concept of Lovestock is going to be about helping each other out and meeting people you've never met before, and it's going to be for such a greater cause that people should be willing to volunteer their time, their equipment, and anything they can. When you had a story earlier about, basically you said that the last time you saw anything like this was in what year?
1960.
So in 1960, what was the kind of the last experience you saw, or something like that?
Well, we had the neighbor that come down with cancer, and he had a field of corn and was ready to harvest.
Mm-hmm.
And the men in the community all got together one Saturday and went down and gathered this crop for him.
Okay. So how did word get around back then that he was I guess in need of some help at that moment?
Well, they by word of mouth and the whole community. And back then we knew everybody and everything, and so we did all got together and decided that we'd go over and gather this crop for him.
So you guys actually, he was too sick to work.
Oh yeah.
And what was wrong with him? He came down he had cancer.
He had cancer. He was in bed with cancer.
And through just talking to your neighbors, because I guess cell phones weren't around back then, right?
No cell phone, no telephone.
No telephone at all. So it was all just from talking to people that you knew.
Word of mouth.
And you also said something that kind of caught me off guard. You live now in the same place for the most part that you lived at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And you said that everyone knew each other. So explain how that worked. I mean, how did you know everybody?
Well, most everybody went to church, and we met them at church.
Mm-hmm.
And then we was neighbors.
Right.
And we'd go stop and we'd talk to them and everything, and everybody knew everybody.
Everybody just knew everybody. So
yeah,
it was actually you physically being there and talking to someone.
Yeah.
And you guys just helped each other out in any way you could.
That's right.
And you said the women would do something too.
Well, they would fix dinner for the men while they was gathering the crop.
Okay, and that brings up another point. As far as an idea I have, there can be people that cook and that have huge barbecue trailers or whatnot that can come to this, and they can volunteer their time for that.
Well, back then we didn't have barbecue trailers and everything.
Mm-hmm.
They had to cook it on a wood stove.
Right.
But they cooked vegetables that they had raised at their home farm, and would come there and some of them they would cook them at home and bring them, and some of them would wait till they got there and cook them.
So back then, even in your lifetime, did people always exchange money for work, or would they exchange food sometimes too?
Money was never mentioned. No way to, no compensation anytime, nothing.
Okay, so so they came and they worked on his field for him, right?
They came and worked on that field and gathered his crop for him, and had a party doing it.
Had a party and just loved it.
Had a party
and
doing
at
it.
no moment did he say, "Let me give y'all some money now. Y'all got my field."
It was never mentioned.
Why don't you think money was mentioned?
Because it was really was done out of love for everybody.
It was out of love. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's Lucy. By the way, this is Lucy. Lucy Boo, my parents' dog. Lucy. And basically, so the idea is this: if you can cook, and if you have a barbecue trailer, or if you just want to make 100 hamburgers at home and bring them, my goal for this and my vision for this is that people will bring food and hand each hamburger to somebody they've never met before and get to know them and say, hey, I made this hamburger, I hope you enjoy it, you know? And so what do you think about that? I mean, as far as just the environment, in one day on July 4th, which happens to be the biggest day of the year for our country, okay, on Independence Day, people are going to gather together and go back to the ways of really helping each other out in any way that they possibly can and providing for each other with no mention of money. How does that sound to you?
It's going to scare everybody to death
Why do you think it's going to scare people to death?
because they don't know it. I mean, they don't expect it.
They don't expect it.
They don't think that you got it loaded with something other.
Are you, well, and that's, you know, that's definitely a good point.
That's the mentality now.
That is the mentality now, and basically, we've gotten away from one, loving each other, and if you don't love each other, how can you trust each other? You can't.
You can't.
You can't. So let's love each other, and so this is a conversation with Shotgun, also known as Big Papaw. All right, and we're on the back porch at my house, and this is all for Love Stock.